Well, here I am still alive, even though I haven't made a video in forever. But today I want to do something very different than the Lightroom tutorials I used to make. Is that a weird angle? Which is a product photography tutorial kind of video of this hot sauce that I just selected from the supermarket because I think it looks kind of cool. And the goal today is just to use a bunch of household items to create a really cool picture at the end. And actually, instead of being a tutorial in that kind of sense, it is really just a video of where I try out a bunch of things and share everything with you, whether it works or not, and how the picture becomes to be, because I really stopped myself from, putting any stuff there and trying out how it looks, because I just want to have everything on video. And the most interesting thing of all is that I'm going to use one light right here. Bought it for $40 from China like 2 years ago. And I just want to figure out what can you get for $40 worth of lighting and some random stuff laying around the apartment. And can you actually get a good picture and how it works, because I'm not a product photographer either. So hopefully this will be interesting. So then what I'm gonna do is just shoot straight on from this hot sauce and use this light and create multiple exposures to illuminate the front, the side, the top, the bottom, the back, whatever, and stitch it together later in Photoshop, because that's how you can really do it with just one light. And for now, I think I just want to create some depth, have the hot sauce here and something in the background, some cool textures. So let me see what I can do here. Okay, so I think I'm gonna try to first do it with the cutting board, because the black, I like the reflection on the bottle, but not so much on the chilies and whatever else I'm gonna put on there. And this is a great example of how I just go on, try out different things, just kind of look at everything, look how it looks, turn on the light, shine it in different ways, and then of course set up the camera in a bit. So you actually see what the lens is gonna see. Okay, so that's my initial setup. I don't know how much I'm gonna change it after I actually put the camera in front of here and see the whole scene through the lens. I'm going to be using the 50mm lens right here. It's on a crop sensor body, so it's going to be like 75mm equivalent. And that's just going to allow me to get a very focused perspective of the lens. So a wide angle will capture a lot in the background, which I don't want here. I just want to have a very sharp, kind of forward-facing field of view. So let's try that, set up everything. That's the wide angle lens that I've used before, just to show you as an illustration. There's way too much stuff in the background. Now it gives a sort of different look that I like you have the foreground much bigger compared to the background, it's less compressed, but I don't think it's gonna work for this particular scene here. Now I change it to the 50mm lens, that's all I've done, and it's a lot more compressed, a lot more close to what I kind of want to go for. So I think I'm just going to go for a very simplistic setup at the end. I tried out a bunch of different things, the black plastic as well, but in the end, I really kind of like this sort of framing. It's not final yet, but just so you get a rough idea. There's still quite a bit of white space on the sides right here, left, right, and behind, but I'm just going to extend that in Photoshop, so that shouldn't be a big deal at all. And other than that, I really like the angle. Now, I was also experimenting going a bit more flat, as you can see here, but then everything is kind of too flat. There's no dynamic to it. So I'd rather bring that up a bit so you can actually see the garlic in the background. You have the hot sauce, you can see the chilies. Now you can probably see that the lighting like this doesn't look that great by itself. That is why lighting is super important, and we're gonna use this light right here from different angles in different photos and then stitch it later together. Also, of course, extend the sides of the cutting board. Just to show you the whole process, the first one is going to be a frontal lighting, then one from the side like this with the diffusion paper, then one from the other side as well. Want to make sure I include the chilies and again have the diffusion paper so the chilies are not too reflective, also the glass. Perhaps you can see the reflection right here without the diffusion paper. And the closer you are to a subject, the softer the light will be. So generally speaking, that's a good way to go. Now, one of the most important things that you can do is just kill all of the ambient lights, because you just want to have that very specific light illuminating the surface you actually want. You don't want to have any stray light with different color temperature or anything. So what I'm gonna do now is just experiment by myself and see how everything looks. And then I'm gonna set up the camera to actually take the sequence of different pictures. I'm gonna end up using a bit of diffusion paper here as well to further diffuse the light, even though it already has a layer in front of it. All right, now what I've got, again, this is just with one light, is just a bunch of different pictures right here in different positions with the light, different strengths, different color temperatures. You can actually mix color temperatures in between pictures as long as you don't deviate too much. Got about 10 different pictures, different lighting from different angles. Now all that is left is just go into Photoshop and stitch all of them together, because all of those pictures I've showed you so far, they don't look that great by themselves. But once they're all together and you select everything, that's what I'm really excited about, the final result. In Photoshop right now, I have all of the layers open of the separate pictures with the separate lighting. And even though I didn't select all 11 at the end, I'm just gonna end up working with 5. It's nice to have the different options and, you know, just later on select which ones you actually want to choose to select certain parts from. Now, before you do anything else though, just select all of your layers, go to Edit, Align Layer right here, and just click Auto OK, because if you shoot on a tripod even, sometimes you shake it a little bit and it's a few pixels off. I'm gonna go ahead and delete all of the other ones just because they're gonna be distracting when we work with these 5 ones that I chose. This one is a nice kind of dark background picture, whereas this one is really nice for the chilies. I love the look there. Then here, kind of nice for the garlic in the background. This is sort of an overall lighting, and this one is almost a bit too bright, but I just wanted to get it in there in case I want to use anything from it. So I'm actually going to use this one as my main picture, and this one I'm just going to use some of the lighting from, which means I'm going to create the layer mask right here. Going to invert it by pressing Ctrl I and then selecting white, the brush tool, and zoom in on the label, bring up the opacity actually to around 50, and just add some of that brightness from that original picture, just like that. Maybe a bit on the chilies, you know, nothing too crazy, a bit on the garlic in the background, and maybe change the opacity of that whole thing to around 60. We got the very dark picture right here. I really like that for the background and also for some of the left sides. I'm gonna try to see what I'm gonna do here. Again, create layer mask, invert, and paint with white. And I'm just gonna brush in a little bit on the sides, almost create a vignette, but again, it's not just darkening, it's actually a completely different picture. And I'm gonna go ahead and do all of this with the other layers as well. Okay, so I'm very happy with how this looks. Just to show you with just the base image, a lot more flat, certainly not bad, but I used this picture right here, the very bright one, to just add some accents on the label and the garlic. Then I used this as sort of a vignette, but also to create more shadows below the chilies, here even further, and then with the last picture, just a little bit more moody and dark. Now what I'm gonna do is just crop the entire picture. I think, you know, something like this. All that is left is to extend the actual cutting board, because I kind of want to have a nice line here, and then also smoothen out the background of the gray. For that, I'm just gonna copy all of these just to be safe, and then right click, merge layers, copy that once more, and then smoothen out the background fold right here with the clone tool. Gonna select it, go to about 25%. Gonna select my zone right here, just kind of go to the left like this, select another zone, do that, then go over here, do the same thing, select, go all the way along. All right, I'm pretty happy with the background. Now the important part is to add in all of this empty space to the left and right of the cutting board. Ideally, I would have had a picture of just a cutting board without anything, but I honestly forgot about that. So I'm just gonna select an area right here with the pattern, paste it, and then transform it, just kind of like this, and then angle it along with the cutting board more or less. So this one is going to be for the right side. copy it and do the same thing for the left side, just rotate it to the other side. Now all that is left is to actually blend in all of these pictures. First of all, actually, I'm gonna merge them down, make sure that these are aligned in terms of the horizon with the rest of the cutting boards. I can do that very easily right here. And now I kind of have to adjust the color, I guess, add a little bit of darker exposure to just the cutting board. Hold down the Alt key, and that way the color effect will only apply to the layer below. Then, because the cutting board isn't really in focus for the most part, I'm just gonna select it and add some Gaussian blur, because that's gonna hide some of the texture a lot more. Yes, looks way, way better. And now I'm gonna lower the opacity temporarily just so I can blend it in with the erase tool. Then what I'm gonna do is just select all of these 3 layers on the top, because that's all we're gonna be working with right now. Copy them, right click, merge layers, and then duplicate the layers and select a clone stamp around 300 size. And as a very last step, I'm just gonna select some of the original cutting board to kind of blend in with the fake cutting board that we used beforehand, especially with the in focus areas. Like in the top left, it's not that big of a deal, but with the bottom, it does matter a bit more. So left side is all right, and the right side here. Now you could certainly do it a bit better, you know, blend it in even further. You can kind of see that there is still a seam, but it kind of looks like it's just a wooden table to me. But compare this to the original picture where we started at, that is after the cropping and the blending together. This would be just one picture, as you can see, not as complex in terms of the lighting and shadows and everything. So here we really selected everything. We smoothened out the background gray, and then we added the wooden parts on the sides to make sure it's filled, and that is it. I'm very happy with it. It looks beautiful. I actually kind of want to sell it to the company that makes the hot sauce now. Let's see if that's going to work. And that's the result at the end, after maybe an hour of preparing and shooting and half an hour or an hour of editing. And I'm very happy with the result. I mean, it looks really cool for just one light with random stuff I found in the apartment. I like it. Okay, thank you very much for watching. I'm gonna eat this delicious chili. Oh, that doesn't. Oh, it's hot. Thanks for watching. I regret that idea at the end.